So a 5-goal thriller here at the Emirates. Arsenal coming from behind to beat Everton by 3-2. A bit of a rarity, I think, in a Premier League game, in that both sides probably came out of this feeling quite good.
Well, I think Ancelotti won't be feeling particularly good because I think there's an opportunity to really build on what they've done. Obviously, he's only lost one game against Manchester City since he's joined the club, and I think there was an opportunity there really to get some points on board. Certainly, the frustration will be that they got that equaliser just before half-time, so the team talk at half-time would have been, listen, keep playing away, we'll get opportunities against this Arsenal team, as any team does. And yet they give away that third goal just a minute after half-time, and it just changes everything. It means they're chasing the game, leaves themselves a bit vulnerable. Having said all that, they should have had at least 4 goals.
So many similarities between the two sides when you think back to the scoreless draw at Goodison Park, where Arteta and Ancelotti were probably watching on in that game. It was one of the worst games of the season, thinking, what have we let ourselves in for? But real signs of progression from both teams in terms of how they're trying to control games, but also probably still big issues at the back for both sides as well.
Yeah, and the contrast is massive, bearing in mind you've got a manager of the experience of Ancelotti, 15 major trophies in 5 different countries, up against a rookie boss like Arteta. Having said that, you can notice, you're right, I think I can see what Ancelotti's trying to do. A lot of money misspent at Everton, and we never knew really what they were trying to achieve. There seems to be a clear strategy now, but I still expect a big overhaul of players. The thing that Everton have with the backing of Mashiri is that they have the money to do it. Arsenal don't. So Arteta's got to use all his skill set as a coach, bearing in mind that he's that inexperienced as a boss, and create players within his squad and certainly within the youth levels. And up to this point, we've seen the likes of Saka burst onto the scene under him. That bodes well because he was very impressive. A difficult time in the second half in terms of defensively, but he'll add to that. In terms of his creativity, again, another assist, and that ball in for that goal for Nketiah was fantastic. Nketiah is a young centre forward who came in and out over the last year, had to go out on loan to Leeds, but he got 2 back-to-back starts in the Premier League ahead of someone as experienced as Lacazette. That shows a lot of faith by the manager. So I do believe that both clubs are on the right path.
We were both surprised that Saka didn't start the game. Kolasinac came in, picked up what looked like a nasty-looking shoulder injury, unfortunately. And you touched on his stats there. That's 3 goals and 10 assists already. The majority of them in the Europa League. But for an 18-year-old who's Arsenal's 3rd youngest player ever, a lot of speculation about his contract, 18 months left. Talk that maybe even a club like Liverpool might be interested as a rival for Andy Robertson. Like, is he, and it's very early, but is he at that level that he could get to a Robertson, Alexander-Arnold level?
In terms of the potential and what he's doing at such a young age, bearing in mind that he's not a left back by trade, he's a winger. And I think he's got to learn that skill set. But certainly the modern day fullback is a winger, isn't it? It's not a case of being able to defend that back post off and stay narrow to your centre halves. It's not about that. More often than not, as a fullback now, you're at the highest point of the attack. And when he gets into that final third, you talked about those 13 goal involvements in 19 starts. That's staggering. But coupled with that is that his pass percentage rate when he gets into that final third is in the high 90s. So it's not a case that he's wasteful when he gets into those areas. He is able to get his head up, make passes. If you don't get close enough to him, he can whip balls around you in a Beckham way or like a Trent Alexander way, the quality with that cross for Nketiah's goal. If you double up on him, he can play in tight areas. If you think about the goal he created for Pepe last week, where he nutmegs a Newcastle player, then drives into the box, cuts it back for him. So he has so many attributes. Listen, it's a massive decision for him as a player. You'd hope, and I genuinely mean this, that he's got good advice, because I think he can probably go and earn so much more money elsewhere, but he has to play football. That's part of your development more than anything, playing first team football. And if at 18 you're playing first team football for a club of Arsenal stature, regardless of where they are at the moment and the reduced status that they're operating at, that's where you need to learn your game.
Seamus Coleman's out warming down behind us, the worst place I think you can be as a footballer, because they really put you through the winger for 10-20 minutes to just get all the adrenaline out of your system. He didn't play today, he's been in and out of the side. Does he face a decision in the summer? Like, Everton's a club that have shown with, say, Phil Jagielka, with Leighton Baines, that they love to have good quality experienced professionals around the club. He's 31 now. He's never seemed like the type who'd push for a transfer, but do you think he needs to give it serious consideration?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, that's pure speculation. In terms of a player of his quality, yes, you want him to be playing football, certainly at his age. And I said this in commentary, listen, he'll ask the questions of the manager, but it won't be, I don't really know Seamus, but in terms of his character, how well he's led Everton as a captain, certainly how well he's led Ireland as a captain. I don't expect him to like just flippantly be banging on the manager's door. I think he'll make a decision based on how hard he works in training, try and impress the manager that way. And Ancelotti is so experienced at this level. He'll know how important Seamus is. And if you're saying to me, in terms of what I've seen of Seamus, will he be up for the fight to try and get his place back? Of course he will. There's no doubt about it. He's got great character. He's obviously a leader of men, so I expect that. But in terms of making the decision, only he can know that answer.
You saw Arsenal a couple of weeks in a row now and watched them against Newcastle keep a clean sheet. Like, the one consistent thing you were saying during commentary was that whatever Arteta does in terms of system and trying to improve them defensively, with those players, with Mustafi and Luiz, he's just not going to be able to transform things. So is that his main priority, do you think, come the summer, buying 2 new centre-halves?
Well, I don't know about buying 2. I do think that David Luiz can play a role, and I think we saw his positive impact on the team with that brilliant pass through to Aubameyang. Not many centre-halves can make that type of pass, so you know why he sets up his team in midfield to create space for his centre-half on that left-hand side to step in and blocks up Mustafi, because he don't want him running with the ball because he gives it away too often. But I'm looking at the scenario with Arsenal in terms of, in his programme notes, Arteta was saying he just wants to instill in this team an enjoyment about defending, and they don't seem to enjoy defending. In fact, they panic. They really do panic. There's no calmness and no real authority, and that's something he's going to have to address. There's no doubt about it, because as good a coaches, the best coaches in the world can't legislate for players making decisions under pressure, which some of them players make. That's the problem. The only issue is that he's not going to have any financial muscle to go out and buy a ready-made replacement. He's going to have to make do with what he's got.
You were watching Sheffield United against Brighton yesterday. You were salivating over Shane Duffy at times. There's nothing you enjoy more than a good, powerful header.
Well, listen, in terms of seeing Shane Duffy, in terms of that ball goes in and he arches his back and he heads it for about 30, 40 yards like a Paul McGrath, I love it, but I have no doubt in my mind Mick McCarthy loves that. But there's a flip side as well, in terms of Sheffield United. O'Connell, left side centre half, stepping and being in a left wing position more often than not. So I admire that type of way. The issue that I had is that too many pundits or so-called experts are looking at Arsenal's results and saying that's 3 clean sheets on the bounce. He's solved a problem. He's doing brilliant. He ain't solved no problem, because against Newcastle, as bad as they are at scoring goals, they had loads of chances. Joe Linton should have scored. Kieran Clark should have scored. Likewise against Olympiacos, certainly against Burnley, where Rodriguez should score virtually an open goal, hits the crossbar. So it's not kidding anyone on. You know, I'm experienced enough and with enough know-how to know that even if you are conceding goals, maybe 1 each week, but you look defensively strong, you can see it. And likewise, I don't believe it when you're getting clean sheets, and I can see that they're giving 7-8 chances away every game.
From that Irish defensive point of view, so Kieran Clark's injury means Mick McCarthy probably doesn't really have a decision to make. It'll be Shane Duffy and John Egan, unless he goes against everything he said and plays 3 at the back. You saw the 2 of them yesterday then. Like, Shane Duffy, we know what he does. We know what everyone thinks about him. From John Egan's point of view, first season in the Premier League.
Brilliant. It's been so impressive. And because of John's Kerry connections and obviously his famous father, who's a massive hero of mine and a great Kerry team, I've always kept an eye on him. He was at Sunderland as a young player, so I kind of like, from a distance, kept an eye on him. He had that horrific injury, so he has to rebuild his career. So I'm coaching in League One level, and I've seen what he's doing at Gillingham. Gets into the Gillingham League Team of the Year. The League One Team of the Year. Then he makes his move to Brentford, gets in that Championship Team of the Year. So I'm looking at him thinking, yeah, this is brilliant. Now, can you make the step up from a centre half in those lower leagues to someone in the Premier League, which is a massive challenge? And he's done it so well. He really has. Bearing in mind that at times, even with 3 centre halves, more often than not, Basham on the right hand side of him and certainly O'Connell on the left hand side, they're in right and left wing positions. So on the turnover, he's virtually left on his own, maybe with Oliver Norwood, who's not a Roy Keane, not a Conte, not a Vieira in terms of running people down from midfield. So he's got to make good decisions, can be exposed, but he never panics. Listen, he's made mistakes, but who doesn't as a centre half? But in terms of his desire, I've been so impressed with him, and that is what we've seen in the Ireland shirt. As much as Kieran Clark may well have been fit, I would have been very surprised if it wasn't Egan and Duffy anyway.
Where does his level finish then? Because when we speak about Shane Duffy, I think most people probably accept that he doesn't have the game for a top 6 team. He's brilliant in that last gasp defending, and there's no doubt he can probably play for a side above Brighton. But from John Egan's point of view, does he have the skill set that one of the bigger teams would look at him, or actually does he just suit that style that Sheffield United play? Well,
listen, Chris Wilder is a very astute manager, identified what he was doing at Brentford and brought him in, and at the time everyone was saying, well, that's a sideways move. Certainly people around West London and Brentford saying, why are you leaving us to go to Sheffield United? Well, I'll tell you the reason why. He's playing for a team that's in and around top 5, top 6 in the Premier League. Yeah, the setup's perfect in the centre of a free. It does cover a few of his deficiencies as such, but he's learning all the time. If you're telling me again, and it's the same scenario with Duffy, if you're telling me could he play in Liverpool's team in a way that Van Dijk does, where your two fullbacks are gone and you're on your own, I'm not sure.
Could he play in this Arsenal team?
Well, listen, in terms of his character, absolutely he could play in this Arsenal team. There's no doubt about that. He's a defender who likes defending. It's what Arteta is trying to create. Whether or not people would want to go out and get him remains to be seen. I know for a fact that Sheffield United will be reluctant to let him go, but in terms of a debut season, coupled with what he's doing at international level, I've been so impressed and I've been delighted for him.
And finally, to finish up, we need Gary Breen's hot take on VAR this weekend. Two big incidents.
Yeah.
Lo Celso stamping down on Azpilicueta, gets away with it, and then VAR admit that they got it wrong.
Yeah.
And then what I think was an inevitable situation that was going to happen eventually in the Burnley-Bournemouth game, where there's a penalty at one end, Bournemouth go up and score at the other end, and they drag it all the way back down for the penalty kick. Any issue with them?
Well, I haven't seen the Bournemouth one, but I go back to that the penalty scenario with City and Tottenham, where it was 3 minutes between it, going back to that decision. In terms of that one for Lo Celso yesterday, you could see it is the quintessential decision that VAR is effectively there for. That, coupled with the Thierry Henry handball, that you're able to look at it and say, no, that's a mistake, pull it back. And how they do not give, because that is a potential leg-breaking tackle by Lo Celso. The problem that I have, and will always have, just let Michael Oliver go over to the monitor, let him see and trust. Give that power back to the referee to say, what do you think of that? I've no doubt in my mind he would have said, yes, and that's a mistake. Why we need, ultimately, two referees is beyond me. Just allow that referee to have that control. Because
so you're saying get rid of the VAR in Stockley Park altogether and just have the monitor on the side and let the referee...
Well, don't let Stockley Park make that decision. Just go into the ear of Mike Oliver and say, listen, you might want to have a look at this. He quickly runs over. On first viewing, you know straight away that is exactly what it's made to be, that he stamped on it, potential leg break. And I get so frustrated. I think as a player, I just wanted consistency from my referee throughout that 90 minutes. When you used to go in as captains with the team sheets, you talk to the referee prior to the game and he'd say, this is how I'm going to referee. And so you knew, you'd relay that back to your team and say, listen, he's going to be one of those who's a stickler for this, or he's going to let the game flow. You know where you're standing. But the problem is that you have one referee doing that and then suddenly you've got another referee influencing the game. I just don't like it.